Welcome to video tutorial number 3 for BooTweak for Contact. In this tutorial I'm going to be covering the different ways you can select and work with groups, as well as various options associated with that. Okay, our group buttons are located, the first 4 here and the second 4 here. The red outline tells us that they are active to be controlled with the MIDI controller. Okay, first of all, right now you can see we have the kick, snare, and clap selected because I have the multi-select button on right here. If I were to turn that off, then only the currently visible group's parameters, which is the kick, would remain. So I turn that off and now we see the kick. The little red light here indicates that it is the group whose parameters we see here, and also it's color coded, so the blue matches the blue. If we go to the closed hat, the yellow matches, and the snare, so there's 2 ways to tell which group you are currently viewing. Okay, and also you'll notice that when single select, multi-select is off, it's set to single, and we click on a group, the last group turns off and we just get the one group. So if we go to multi-select, now we're adding additional groups to our selection. Okay, this option here is for changing the viewed group without changing its on-off status. So when I click that, now when I click on snare, instead of it being deselected, we can see the groups for it. Okay, so if I turn that option off, if I click on clap, it's deselected from editing. On, selected for editing. Click this option and now we see the clap parameters, and now we see the kick parameters. Okay, so that's a few different ways that you can select groups. There's also over here the Select All Groups button. When you click it, quick little hit, and all groups are now selected for editing. And the way to get rid of all groups being selected is to click the single select, and you're back to the single select. Go to multi-select, snare, and clap, and they are added on. Okay, I'm going to fade these up so you can hear them. Now, inside this other menu of presets, there is a big option here to have your values changed relative when there is a multi-selection. Okay, and this is a tricky option. Okay, it's buried on a different menu because it's also contingent on an option here with your main options. Okay, and it works like this. When O snap is set to off, right now it's on, now it's off, and when only change the visible group's parameter option is also off, then when you have multiple groups selected, their values are changed relative to the knob you're switching, and the values don't jump to the value of the visible group, which is the normal contact behavior. So if we go in and take a look, you see our snare volume is 24.8, our clap volume is 33.2, and our kick volume is much higher at 7.1. Okay, so when I move the volume with the kick active, they're smoothly moving back in instead of all jumping to the kick's value. So very nice feature. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in all the other groups and show the solo button. I just remembered something. The other groups did not come in because of another option over here under presets, and that is selected groups only affected by preset recall. Okay, so if I turn that off, now when I go back in and hit a preset button, it'll bring the volume back up to the preset level for all the other groups. Voila. Okay. So now I'm going to go back in and select my snare and clap along with my kick. And this first button is a solo button. Okay. So you can quickly solo, bring in different groups. You can do these in a tempo sync or freely depending on the tempo clock sync, which is right here. Okay, so the clock sync, to control the rate of the sync, you go into the miscellaneous button down here, and you've got your sync right here. So if you want it to be for a bar, you can do it there, or you can select it back down to an eighth note. Okay, so that's solo and clock sync. This clock sync also works for the preset recall. Which is very handy when you're playing live if you want to get the exact transitions. And I'm going to fade these back down. Okay. There's a little bit of voodoo going on with the clock sync, and that is in the form of the sync offset, which is kind of like a pre-buffer. If you've got a lot of preset information being loaded right on the beat, there's the potential to, for the kick to come in a little bit fudged up. So you can actually have it preload a little bit according to the sync offset. The higher the number, the sooner, the bigger the pre-buffer. So the best way to do this is to just work with your system and see how low you can get away with on your pre-buffer. Okay. So that's the clock sync. This is the active groups lock. How this works is that you've got your different main sections here. We've got your modulation intensities and your group effects. Now if you want, you can have these same groups be selected when you go to your different sections, or if you turn that off, when you go to a different section and you go down and click some different groups here. Volume up on these ones, obviously. You see when I go back into my main and envelope, it went back to these original groups I was using for editing here. Okay. It can be useful. So that's just something to come to grips with. But it's cool for when you're jamming and you want to control some different elements over here and quickly jump back in and control different things over here, obviously with your solo off. Or you can just solo groups back and forth as well. If I bring these back up, it's just kind of a getaway of different solo groups. Okay. This fourth option here is select, or the visible group only is affected by a knob change. Okay, so the kicks is active. So when I bring the volume down, you can see it's only affecting the kick. So that's a cool way if you are soloing different groups and you're, tightening up some values and kind of your subgroup. You can do it without deselecting the other groups and then reselecting them. So all groups changing, only selected group changing. Okay, it's a handy and unique feature to BooTweak, not native to Contact. Okay, this button here went off when you saved your preset data, which we will get into later in a different tutorial. You are writing and retrieving from locations 1 to 4. If you click it on, you're writing and retrieving to locations 5 to 8, but I'll get into that at another time. Okay, we've covered these, view the groups, and we've covered the select all groups. Okay, and let's do one quick look at the OSnap technology. When you click that, when you've ever worked with a controller and working with knobs, and you're trying to get your knob, right now I'm using my core controller, and you're trying to center back on 0, I'll turn that OSnap off. It can be a bit fiddly to get it to land right on 0, depending on the sensitivity of your knob. So when OSnap is on, boom, you can snap it right on there. Or at least to within 1/100th, according to this. Which, for all intents and purposes, is right on the main. So you can center that quickly. Tune. Boom. Snap everything right where you want it. And that's OSnap. And you can set kind of the tightness or the looseness of that under your miscellaneous button with your knob snap right here. You can mess around with that and see how you like to use it. Okay, that is a look at groups and the new and brand new ways that you can work with them for your tweaking pleasure.